All right, welcome, guys. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to go to the next level with their personal brands. I'm your host, Junior Frederick, and I have with me the man himself, Mr. Bobby Stealth. And we have a phenomenal conversation for you here today. Bobby, what's going on?
Not much, Junior. I'm having a phenomenal morning. Phenomenal morning. I've got teenagers, guys. So when you're raising teenagers, it's always something interesting. It's always something interesting. Got a 17-year-old and a 16-year-old, so they're going out and doing things. And I'm just thinking back to when I was their age. I'm like, man, how time flies, and I was thinking back to like, man, they're going to get married soon. And then I'm thinking to like, oh, snap, they're going to have kids eventually. It's just like life is just flying by, but it's also taking its time. So I'm feeling very appreciative. I remember during my meditation this morning, I just felt my fingers, I just like, I'm alive, I'm living. And it was just a sensation. And I observed it. I just appreciated it. And I'm feeling very present, very observant this morning.
Very nice. Bobby, I'll take my time before I get there. Bro, I'm still at a toddler, I'm still at a toddler. So just being appreciative, like you say, for the moments. Isn't it incredible how, kids are so smart? It's incredible, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. Like my son is very, very intelligent. Very intelligent. So I'm very interested to see how the years roll by and a little bit of what he does actually. But yeah, man, it's all good. It's all good. So today I feel very I feel like I'm building momentum towards something big. And I don't know what it is. I'm not sure where it's going, but I know it's somewhere up. Whatever it is, it's up. It's upwards from where I am right now. And for that, I am very appreciative. And we can get into what exactly I did to put myself in that space, like what's sort of going on. But I have a feeling that you may want to go to the first break before we do that. And then when we come back, we're going to be diving into the topic of thinking big. So, guys, stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this. Let's grow.
There's slow growth and then there's scale. There's incremental growth and then there's exponential growth. What I want to talk to you about is adding a zero to you and experiencing exponential scale. Incremental growth says 1 plus 1 is 2. Exponential growth says 1 plus 0 is 10. Incremental growth says 2 plus 2 is 4. Exponential growth says 5 plus 0 is 50. Guys, listen, when you add a zero to you, you can add a zero to the marketplace. You can add a zero to the value that you bring. So you can add a zero to your family, add a zero to your legacy. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about incremental, we're talking about exponential. I always say that business is a spiritual game. Just imagine when you combine your skills, your values, your abilities, your talents to something bigger than you, something greater than you, something like the power of exponential. That is adding a zero. Add a zero to your competence, add a zero to your confidence. This is about adding a zero in your life, your value, your industry, and your mission. Let's grow. So when you're young, mommy tells you to play nice. Play nice, Timmy. Let all of the other kids play too. But in business, it's not about playing nice. In business, it's about winning. It's about adding multiple zeros to your revenue. Now, of course, your staff wins. And when you win, other people win. However, when it comes to competition, you absolutely must dominate. You can't play for participation, and you can't play just to get along or just to get by, because business is serious. Business will help you to change the world, or the world will change you. Your people will either win or your people will lose based on your level of leadership, what you're willing to do, what you're willing to sacrifice, and how much you know about dominating.
All right, guys, welcome back. This is Breakfast with the Brand, and we're about to dive into the topic of thinking big. So,
Yeah.
Bobby, I'll let you kick it off, man, but I have a lot to say about that. A lot.
Yeah, man. I'd like to start with the bigger you think, the bigger your faith must be. Because when it comes to thinking bigger, I've noticed that most times we don't think big because we don't believe it's possible. We don't believe it's possible. And I think that comes from a lack of confidence in ourselves. I think it comes from what we've seen. Like if you've never seen somebody make $1 million, then you may think $1 million is a lot of money. If you've made $1 million yourself 2, 3, 4 times over, you may feel like $1 million is not a lot of money. Like that, these are pennies in my bucket. So it also comes down to what you've seen, and what you believe. So one of the things that I'd like to open up as we talk about thinking bigger is the limitations to thinking bigger. Because a lot of people want more. If you bump into just about anybody on the street, 9 out of 10 people are going to say, I want a nicer car than the one I have. I could go for a bigger house. I could take a larger salary. I don't mind getting a few more properties. So if everybody wants more, what's causing so many of us to settle? Is it an inability to work harder? Probably not. People are crushing themselves on their jobs. They're working super hard. So it can't be their inability to work hard. Is it their lack of desire? No, because if you bump into them on the street, they'll say, yes, I want it. They desire it. I would say it has to do with belief that they can have it. So because very few people believe that they can have it, so many people feel like they deserve it. You believe that? Like they feel entitled to it. They feel like they deserve it, but still, for whatever reason, don't believe they can have it. And because there's this inability to believe that they can have it, it seems to be this barrier that stops most of us from thinking bigger. And I'm just sharing my personal experience. Like when I was struggling to leave the workforce or struggling to make that decision, it was because I didn't fully believe that I could make more money outside of the military without a college degree than I could in the military with 12 years of experience, 10 years of experience. So it was just like this belief set. So as I turn it to you, Junior, what have been some of your experiences with the limitations to thinking bigger?
That's a great question, Bobby. And as I'm thinking about this, imagine just a couple of weeks ago, I had to realize that I was thinking small as well. And when I sort of self-analyze and I'm thinking to myself, well, why did that happen? Honestly, I think it comes down to perspective or where you get your perspective from. If you look at just the outside world, like if you exist in the outside world and you're the kind of person, maybe like me, for example, I come from a very small island. I say it all the time. My island could fit into the state of Texas at least 1,000 times. Okay. So when I look around me, if I was limited or if I had stayed limited by what I see, then my vision would stretch as far as the island. Does that make sense? So I think the reason why people get stuck is because they get stuck in what they see. Now, vision doesn't have anything to do with sight. Vision does not have to do with sight. Vision is not what you could see with your physical eyes, but rather what you could see with your mind's eye. Okay? And to be honest, and to just be frank, I feel like a lot of people don't think big because they don't know they can.
Mm.
They just don't know they can. Like, bro, I could start thinking of some really like did you hear last week China China landed a probe on the far side of the moon. Now, this means that there was some guy or woman somewhere that had an idea that was thinking, how can we land something on the backside of the moon? Think about that. That's thinking big. How can we create a civilization on Mars. That's thinking big. I think most people don't think big just because they don't know they can. For me, I just didn't know I can. I'm thinking, I'm so obsessed with, okay, how can I make $1 million? How can I make $1 million? I'm like, bro, how can I make 1 billion? How can I make 1 trillion? We don't think big because we don't know we can. It doesn't cost to think big. It doesn't cost you more to think bigger. And like a great book says, which I read over 15 years ago, it says, if you're gonna be thinking, you might as well think big. If you're gonna be thinking, you might as well think big. So Bobby, I think people just don't know they can. They take on, and Jay-Z has this thing that he says. He says that a lot of people will try to pass on their fears to you. Like they will project their self-imposed limitations on you. They will project their fears on you. They will project their limits on you. So if you're in the wrong community, okay, which is another reason why people don't think big. If you're in a community that doesn't think big or that is projecting fears and limitations on you, you start to take on those limitations and fears as your own. And as a result, you don't think big. You start to think small. So I believe that people don't think big because they just don't know they can. But if somebody like a coach comes along and says, "Hey, Bobby, why are you focusing on the million? How can we get to 1 billion?"
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the lid, the ceiling is lifted. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? So people just don't know they can.
You know, thinking bigger, I think, hurts for some people when they've been trained to think small. Like, imagine trying to force something through the eye of a needle. The eye of a needle, very, very small eye, but like try forcing a donkey through the eye of a needle. That's something that is said in the Bible. It's talks about a rich man getting into heaven. They're like, it's so difficult for this rich man to get in because of all of their perspectives that it's easier to put a camel or something through the eye of a needle. Now, the reason I use this particular analogy is because thinking small could be the eye of the needle, and then thinking big could be this camel. And if you've been trained your whole life to think small, and then you try to think big, it could hurt. And I think a lot of people think that that pain is bad, but that pain is really breaking out of one way of thinking into another one. And I'll give you guys a real life example. In the military, we would train, and we would train so hard that we came up with this phrase called pain is weakness leaving the body, because that's how hard we would train. And when you're training this hard, guess what happens to your body?
Hmm.
It breaks down, it rips
Hmm.
apart, and then it grows back what? Stronger, bigger, more durable. And that's what we have to do when we're thinking. We have to go from 9 to 5 thinking that says save a little bit of money a month, put it into a 401k or some stocks, right? Let it grow
Yep.
over the next 30 years. And in that time, I'll have $3 million if I'm lucky. Like if the market does well and I'm consistent with investing and I've got a
Yep.
nice nest egg at 67. To some people, that's thinking big. But if they come to a realization that that's thinking small, and then they say, okay, I want to think bigger than that, it's gonna be uncomfortable to say, I'm gonna take all the money out of my 401k. Like, listen to me, guys, because this could unlock something for you. Because you may be trying to think big, but you haven't been willing to cut down your small provisions. See,
Hmm.
when you think small, you set up provisions for your small thinking to be successful. And when you think big, you have to sacrifice all of those small provisions in order for the big thing to be possible. Simple example. If you're just dating, you're not connected to anybody. You're just out there and doing your thing, being a, what do they call, a bachelor.
Mm-hmm.
But the moment you say, I want to be married, I want to settle down, I want to have kids and a family, what do you have to do? You have to sacrifice all the small engagements. You're no longer a person that's out and about. You're a person that's home with one person that is committed. And in order to commit to this big idea of marriage, it's going to cost you all the small things that you were used to. And that, I think, is something that a lot of people struggle with. Is they're like, okay, I'm ready to think bigger. I'm ready to build my business. I'm ready to take things to the next level, but they're not ready to max out their credit cards. Those little comforts. They're not ready to empty the savings accounts. They're not ready to sell the rental properties. All, like, you can't keep the little things, and it's like trying to think big and small at the same time. You got to do one or the other. It's very difficult. I would even venture to say impossible to build a big dream with a small person's thinking. Just doesn't work. If you're going to build big dreams, you need to think like big thinkers. And big thinkers often sacrifice the small for the large. They sacrifice the little for the lot. And if you want to have a bunch of little safety nets, you can, or you can take one big leap of faith in a direction that you feel is worthy of your attention, focus, and belief, and see how creative you can be along the way, because that's all an obstacle is looking for, is enough creativity for you to get over it. So that's my perspective on why sometimes we can get paralyzed in the process of going from small thinking to big thinking. So we've talked about some of the things that keep us thinking small, but that example was just what happens when we're going through the process of transitioning from small thinking to big thinking, and some of the things that I've experienced personally as I've shifted my mindset time and time again.
Yeah, I mean, while you were speaking, I wrote down sacrifice equals investments. So people have this thing, you have to sacrifice to be successful. A sacrifice equals an investment. So, for example, if you're the kind of person that's looking to shift their reality, okay, and you, let's say you used to go out with friends all the time and drink. Now you no longer do that. Is that a sacrifice? To me, that's an investment. That's you investing in your future. You're investing that time to go to a different level, to exceed where you are right now, to uncover a hidden potential within yourself, right? So sacrifice equals investments. Now, when it comes to thinking big, Bobby, I feel like exposure is another reason why people don't think big. Like, I'll give you an example. For me, just personally, there have been times in my life where I felt like, I was the man, right? So I felt like I was doing something big. And then I got around other people that were doing bigger things. And guess what? What I was doing was actually very small. I got to realize that, hey, whatever you think you're doing is not good enough. So there's like this 80 and 20% rule. So in every room, when you walk into any room, Bobby, any room, there's always the 80% and the 20%. If you're the 20% in your room, meaning you're the creme de la creme, you're the cream that rises to the top, you need to get into another room where you immediately become the 80%. I know a guy, 9 figures, big entrepreneur, influencer. He got into a room where he had listen to me, he's worth almost 500 mil. He got into a room where he had the smallest net worth. So in his circle, he's the big boss in his circle. But when he got into the other room, he was literally the only person there. He barely qualified to get into the room, Bobby. Everybody in the room was a billionaire. And here he comes with his 500 mil. barely made it to the room. like he, like somebody had to refer him. Somebody had to put in a word for him to get into the room at
Mm,
500 mil.
that's good.
You see what I'm saying, brother? So
Yeah.
when he got into that room, he emptied his cup, he listened, he took notes, because guess what? He was the 20%. In fact, he was the 1% in the previous room. When he got into this next room, he immediately became the 99%. Imagine that. Same thing for me. Bro, when I got into other rooms with other people that were doing bigger things, I started to realize what I thought was big was small, and I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't doing nearly enough of what I needed to do to go to the next level. I wasn't even close. There was too much daylight between me and the next person in that next room.
Hmm.
And you're going to stay small if you continue to be the big boss in the room. If you're the best in your circle, you need a new circle, period.
Yeah.
Because you have to continue to stretch. Otherwise, you stay where you are. Now, there's a beautiful song. One of my favorite bands. So I love music. I actually love a lot of different genres of music. I love rock as well. Most people don't know that, but I love Coldplay. Coldplay is one of my favorite bands. Coldplay has a song, actually with Jay Z. The remix is with Jay Z. It's called Lost. That's the name of it. And in Lost, there's a phrase there where it says, "You could be a big fish in a little pond. It doesn't mean you've won, because along could come a bigger one." You could be a big fish in a little pond. So you could feel like you're the big fish, but if you're a big fish in a little pond, bro, if we dump you in the ocean, if you're a big fish in an aquarium and we put you in the ocean, you get swallowed up.
That's right.
There you go.
You know, that's something that I think is interesting about life in general is that we're passing through it. And what I mean by that is you may be the big fish in this season of your life, and then you'll be the minnow, the little baby minnow in another season of your life. And then you may be the great white shark in another season of your life. And then you're like a beluga whale in another season of your life. So it's like what's interesting, I think, about thinking big and understanding the transitions of life is that with maturity and wisdom, I think, comes refined thinking. So not only do we need to think big, but we also need to refine how the things that we're thinking big about. And I think that's something that's really important. For example, if I think that thinking big and I can actually use this example. So in my 20s, I thought that thinking big was money. I was like, I need a dollar amount, and this money is going to change my life. And that was thinking big for me. And I set out on a goal to make that amount of money. But now that I'm in my 30s, thinking big still requires money, but I have a refined vision. It's not about the money anymore. The money will come. The thinking big is about generational impact, it's about contribution, it's about alleviating suffering. And who do I have to be in order to play a role in society that aligns with contribution, the alleviation of suffering, and meaningful work? Those things, I think, are why, as you mature, you need to be in those rooms. Because I would venture to say that when this guy was in the $500 million room, his version of thinking big was probably really big, but it might have been very refined. when he got into the $1 billion room, because these billionaires, many of them have already taken care of 3 generations. Like they made enough money for their lifetime and 3 more lifetimes. And they're thinking about, okay, how can I use this money to affect the trajectory of our political system? You know, and I'm not saying that they're bad people. I'm saying that they may have certain things that they believe in. And they're like, okay, how can we band together to shape our society and to shape our world? And I think that's where the maturity and refinement of thinking big is very important. So I really don't want us to undermine the importance of community, because here at the brand, we've got what? The Brand Academy, Branded Like a Leader Academy, and then we've got the Leadership Leverage, then we've got the HPC, and then we've got Keys to the Throne. And I personally went through all of those different communities, and I can share a little bit about what those experiences were like. They were very interesting because I didn't go through the Branded Like a Leader Academy that you guys have today. This one is amazing, guys. Y'all got Slack channels, y'all got workbooks. The Branded Like a Leader that I went through was trial by fire, baby. We was all in there learning. We was turning and burning, and we were learning. But I remember that in each of those communities, I was always in the 80%. I was never in the 20%. I didn't feel like, at least. So when I was in the Branded Like a Leader community, I remember learning about myself. Brand you, not what you do. So if you're watching this, I want you to ask yourself, are you thinking big? It's the first question I want you to ask yourself. And then the second question I want you to ask yourself is, how or who is helping you refine the quality of your thinking? Because you can think big, but be thinking with poor quality. Poor quality thoughts are not the same. Like all thoughts are not created equal. Okay. Like some thoughts are far more effective and far more quality than others. So when I was in Branded Like a Leader, I learned about branding myself, which was very important because that community refined my thinking from what I do to who I am. Very big distinction that a lot of entrepreneurs don't have. So when I went from Branded Like a Leader successfully, trucking, it was time for me to do the next thing, to learn the next thing. So then it became the Leadership Leverage. So Branded Like a Leader built Leadership Leverage, built on Branded Like a Leader, because Leadership Leverage was about leveraging my leadership. But I couldn't really leverage my leadership effectively without knowing who I was as a leader. So once I got to Leadership Leverage, it was more about, okay, I know who I am. I know my morals, values, and principles. I know who I'm doing this for. Now it's a matter of leveraging this information into a leadership philosophy, and then taking this leadership philosophy and creating leverage within my business. So that was a whole nother level of refined thinking when I went through that program. And then I went through HPC, so high performance consulting. So now I've got employees at this stage. So when I started out in Branded Like a Leader, it was just me. I was a solopreneur, guys. When I got to Leadership Leverage, I was finally making some money. I had closed some 5-figure deals. I had 5 figures that I could add to my day job. I was still working, but then it was time for HPC. And when I went to the HPC, oh, I'm looking around and you got people, project managers, you got people that's been in real estate for like 20 years. These guys are like, some of them have made millions of dollars. Some of them been on like all kinds of, what are they called? Like broadcasts and podcasts. So I was just around a bunch of heavy hitters. And in this environment, I was learning about how to maximize the performance of your team. So I'm still thinking bigger, guys. I hope y'all can see the progression. First, I had to think big within myself. Then I had to think big within my ability to lead myself and others. Then it was thinking big in, once I'm leading myself and I'm leading others, how can I optimize our performance, high performance consulting, so that we can get better results for everybody involved. And then lastly, the next community I went to as I was refining my thinking and continuing to think bigger was Keys to the Throne, where I was now being set down, weekly, monthly, having the one-on-one conversation with the seven-figure earners, the multiple seven-figure earner. And he's talking to me, mentoring me, and sharing with me what I need to do in order to break through my glass ceilings. And that, guys, as I turn it over to Junior, I know I went a little bit longer than I expected to, but I just wanted to, highlight what Junior was saying because I lived it and it's so real. So, Junior, that's my experience with exactly what you were talking about, converting yourself to the 20% or to the 80% as frequently as possible.
Yes, sir. Guys, we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, more on thinking big. Let's grow.
When I think of brand you, I think of being your best self, your most authentic. The reason why we were able to crush business, absolutely dominate in business without having the marketing list, without having the email huge list, without having the Facebook ads and the advertising budget, without knowing the algorithm. The reason we were able to do this is because I branded myself. I told my authentic story and I was comfortable in my skin. Why? Because it was that time in the world where everything was shifting. It was 2020, March. So you remember what happened during that time. It was like the world was coming to an end. So you didn't have anything to hold back. So I chose to give everything that I had and be everything that I am. And because I was that, because I branded me, because I was authentic, everything shifted. And people wanted more. And they wanted to know more about me and how they could become more comfortable in their skin. Listen, guys, when you brand you and not what you do, you're going to add a zero to the world, but you'll also add a zero to your revenue. Let's grow. In brand clarity, exactly what you're going to get is what it sounds like. Clarity for your brand. What is your color? What is your logo? What is your unique value proposition? Who are you speaking to? Why? How should you speak to them? How should I position myself? That's what you're going to learn in brand clarity. You need other people to have the same clarity on your brand that you do. But this is the gap. If you don't have clarity on your brand, then no one else is going to have clarity on your brand either. It's like messaging. Your message sounds clear to you, but is your end user receiving the value that you're trying to provide? I guarantee you that after you go through brand clarity, they will, and so will you. And that's how you'll scale your brand.
All right, guys. So we are back talking about thinking big. Of course, it's been an interesting conversation as usual so far. I really love the fact that we're talking about getting into these different rooms because you know as well as I do, man. Oftentimes, it's not necessarily about the what; it's more about the who. So, who's gonna take you to the next level? And I want to stress something: the power of community. Like community, being around the right people, Bobby, being around the right people will transform your life. Literally, literally. So there's a saying: if you get around four people that take drugs, you'll be the fifth one. Well, it's the
Right.
same thing. If you get around four people that are going to the next level and you study and you apply yourself and you work and you be coachable and you empty your cup, then you'll be the fifth one. So literally just reverse engineer that. If you want to get better in sales, get around a sales community. If you want to be better in branding, get around a branding community. If you want to be better in marketing, get around a marketing community. Okay? So that's what worked for me, literally. When it comes to leadership, get around a community that talks about leadership. That's what worked for me, and that's what's still working for me to this day. So, what community do you belong to? And is that community helping you to move forward to where you need to go? So, Bobby, I want to talk about a circle. So, a circle has two parts. So, a circle has two parts. If I could draw a circle right now, I would draw an X on the inside of the circle, okay? And I would draw an X outside of the circle. So you have two circles as a person and as an entrepreneur. You have your inner circle, okay? And then you have the outer circle. So who's in your inner circle? Your inner circle are the people that are the closest to you, the top five people that are the closest to you, the people that you can trust, the people that you could relate to, the people who are moving in the direction that you would like to move into, the people that are at a higher level than you, the people that you compete and conspire with to push yourself to a new level. Bobby, very recently, I realized that I needed to transform my inner circle. I needed to transform my inner circle. And not only that, I needed to consciously transform my inner circle. I would argue that most of us already have an inner circle, but we didn't consciously build our inner circle. We allowed people into our inner circle. We allowed people around us. Some of them made their way to the inner circle, some of them made their way to the outer circle. And before you know it, you have an inner circle that you didn't actually consciously create because you built it to go to a new level. And that's what happened to me. You could go to a party today, run into a friend of a friend that then becomes your friend, that becomes part of your inner circle, and they're part of your inner circle as a best friend, but the best friend's not going where you want to go. You built your inner circle, but you've not consciously added people to that circle that want to move in the direction that you want to move into. So my question to you is, who is in that inner circle? Who are the top 5 to 10 people? Not even 10, just five. Who's coaching you right now? Who's in your ear right now? Who can you go to advice for right now? Who do you want to be like right now? Okay, who do you want to follow right now? You have to be a follower of somebody. All leaders are phenomenal followers. So who are you following? Who do you want to be like? Who are you dedicated to learning from? Who have you selected as your mentor, as the teacher, as the sensei, as the master that is going to take you to the next level? And how have you dedicated yourself to consciously putting yourself around them as many times as you can so you could, number one, absorb the energy, okay? Number two, get the information. But most importantly, number three, fulfill and get the transformation that's going to take you and everybody around you to the next level, okay? So that's what it's about. I was on a call literally last night and I was telling some people, Bobby, that listen, when you're selling, people don't care about information. People always say, oh, can I get some more information? Okay. People don't care about information. People care about transformation. Okay. So that's why we don't sell a steak, we sell a sizzle on the steak. We sell a transformation. Okay. So who's giving you that transformation? Because transformation is what you're looking for. And to me, Bobby, that should be who's in your inner circle. The outer circle are people that are looking to grow, people that not only can add into you, but that you can pour into them because you have to help people up. The same way you want to be helped up, you have to help other people to come up as well. So who are you pulling with you? Who's in the outer circle? Who are you mentoring? Who are you coaching? Who are you talking to? Who are you motivating? Who are you coaching? Who are you transforming? Who are you pouring into? If you don't give, you can't get, and you're going to get exactly what you give. So who are you giving to? And these are just a couple of questions that if you're listening to my voice right now, you can ask yourself. And if you don't have that, then you need to get that. And not tomorrow, yesterday, or today, right now.
You know, Junior, I love this conversation because it makes me it makes me think about the different areas that you need to have down pat when you are going to the next level. I'm thinking of an example, a military example. So in the military, we have different instructors for different things. Okay. So you've got a pistol instructor that'll teach you how to shoot a pistol. Then you've got a rifle instructor. They'll teach you how to shoot a rifle. Then you got machine gun instructors. They'll teach you how to shoot machine guns. Now, some of these people know how to shoot all of them, but most times they are experts in one. So for me, I have shot all of them, from grenade launchers to machine guns, so on and so forth. And in each of those experiences, you had a different community, energy, and experience. I remember when I was shooting with the machine gunners, the energy with them was more like carry your own load, don't be left behind. So machine guns are heavy, guys. And when we say carry your own load, we mean you're lugging a machine gun uncomfortably on your back or on your neck up and through the mountains and hills and stuff like that. So that was the culture there. And the culture said, carry your own weight, don't be left behind. And when it's time to put rounds down range, do so. Now, when we were with the rifle team, it was different. The rifle guys, it was like, we would say things like, can a brother get some pit love? Now, what pit love is that's when you're in the back, and in the back, these individuals are pulling the targets, because you're shooting sometimes from 200 miles away, 500, not miles, but meters, yards, 200 yards away, 300 yards away, 500 yards away. So when you're in these environments and you're shooting the rifle, it's very relaxed. It's very like, hey, breathe, take your time, relax. Can a brother get some pit love in the back? Like, hey guys, if you saw me hit close to the black, put it in the black, man. So that's like so you get points, you get scores. So if you're shooting a target like 500 yards away, it's like super small to you. So like when the round actually hits on the target, which is much bigger, you could be like right outside of it. And they're like, come on, man, help me. So that's what we mean by pit love. So it's a different energy there. It's a different aura. And then when you're shooting pistol, it's more quick off the draw. It's more sexy. It's more, boy, man, that look good. Oh, you're a bad brother with that pistol. And the reason I share these different things is because if I didn't learn those weapons, tactics, and skills from those experts in those environments, I can very likely say I would not be as efficient and proficient as I am today. Because you cannot, in my opinion, learn how to handle anything expertly from a novice.
Yep.
It's just not going to happen. So what you have to do is you have to be around people that are so good at what they do that they've learned how to create a culture around it. The rifle range, the machine gun range, and the pistol range were never done in the same place. The environments were different. The targets were different. The instructors were different. The gear that we would wear when training was different. These are the subtleties, ladies and gentlemen. Like this morning, guys, we're trying to give you guys the keys to thinking big. And one of the keys to thinking big and having a successful and quality thought experiment that genuinely is big and results in big results is going to the people that have gotten those big results. And that's what I was really hitting on there. Is every time I went somewhere to train and it was life and death, so to speak, like if I'm in a combat zone, people are going to be depending on me to know this skill set. It was always taught to me by someone that was an expert in it, in an environment that was cultivated for maximum attention and optimal retention.
That's right.
Attention and optimal retention.
That's right. So it goes back to community. It goes literally back to community. So I was talking to somebody last night and I gave them this formula. I said the right mindset plus the right skill set plus the right community plus the right coach equals success. So I write that down. In fact, I'll say it again. The right mindset plus the right skill set, plus the right community, plus the right coach equals success. So if you have the right mindset, which in my opinion is just a growth mindset, if you have the right skill set is what you acquire through training. So just like you were talking about, Bobby, you learn the different skill sets from those different masters. If you have the right community of people, individuals that are all pushing you to do better, to perform better, to go to another level when it comes to your craft, and then of course you have the right coach. You have to have a coach. Everybody has a coach. Like whether you're in sports, every sport that you know, whether it's track and field, whether it's tennis, whether it's basketball, football, they all have coaches. And in business, a lot of them all have coaches as well. So if you don't have a coach right now, you need to get a coach. Okay? The right coach, they're gonna give you the right results and you're gonna get success. Right? So that's literally the formula. But when we come back to the topic of just thinking big in general, I have a challenge for the audience. Like, put it in the chat or just write it down. Write it down somewhere in a journal, in a book. What is a big idea? Like, what is your next big idea? What is your next big idea? What is the next thing that you're looking to do that literally, if you thought about it, it might scare you? Bobby, I wrote something. I have this. You can't see, but I have this like this board, like calendar in front of me right there. And I thought about putting something on there, and when I looked at it, it sort of shocked me. Like, like that's a little bit scary. So that's good because you want to stretch out of your comfort zone. You want to get out of the comfort zone. So I mean, man, that's how you grow. You don't grow in a zone of comfort. You grow coming out of the comfort zone. Literally, that's how you grow. That's literally how you grow. So set goals that are gonna stretch you, not necessarily because you want the goal, so to speak. Like all of us will have like money goals, so we might say $1 million, 100 million, a billion, whatever. It's more about the person that you become in the pursuit of the goal. That's how I look at it, at least. Like, who would I have to be? I would have to be a pretty tough guy. Let's put it that way, to be able to to be able to get that goal, right? So that's how I set goals, and that's why I set goals, because I know that the goals are gonna push me to become a different person and push me to totally self recreate in order to get closer to that goal, and that's why I do it.
Hmm. That's incredible, Junior. That's really good. And with these last 3 minutes here, I'm thinking about why I set goals, why, and I want to say mine is exactly for the same reason as yours. It's becoming the person, not just getting the things, but becoming the person. And one thing that I'll leave you guys with if you're watching this is keep getting back up, right? When you're thinking big, you oftentimes are going to fail big. And that's just a part of it. I remember Ray Dalio saying he doesn't hire people until they fail big. He's like, if you haven't failed massively, miserably, and really recovered, he's like, you're still naive to him. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine your boss? Like you're telling him everything that you've done right. You're like, yeah, I did this. I brought this. I scaled this. I got this degree, that degree. And then they ask you, what's your biggest blunder? And you're like, well, I haven't had any big blunders. I've been, crushing it since I got out of college. And he's like, yeah, you don't qualify for this position. We're looking for real, true blue guys that thought big, failed big, and bounced back. Next. Could you imagine?
Wow,
Could
I
you
can
imagine?
imagine that. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Next.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, when you look at a movie, every movie has a main character. You can't really be a hero. Like, okay, this is life. Everybody has a life. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a legend. I like to think of it that way. So, what is your legend? You can't really be Batman without going through what Batman went through, right? You can't really be the hero without encountering some kind of villain, without encountering some kind of blunder, some kind of battle, some kind of thing that's going to push you to the limit and force you to totally self recreate and become the hero that you always knew you should and could be. That's not possible. I mean, they tell it to us over and over again. It's in the Bible, it's in every movie, it's in every story, it's in literally every single thing that we could possibly think of. The hero goes through a journey, they fail, okay? They gain new strength, they gain new insight, they gain new lessons, they transform, they come back, they do it again, and they eventually save the day. That's you. You're the hero in your journey. You're the hero in your story. You're the one that's gonna, go through those blunders, go through those pits, go through those falls, go through those things that you know that you can't survive through, but you're not gonna push yourself to do, but you need to if you're gonna uncover your full potential. And if you stray from that, well, the opposite effect is a life that was never truly lived.
Wow.
Now, I'm gonna end this by ending this with a closing statement. Literally closing. I'm closing the audience now, Bobby. On the worst day of your life, when you're on your deathbed, you're about to leave this world, you're about to transition to the next level. Would you want to feel as if you had more to give? Would you want to close your eyes and imagine the ghosts of what could be, the vision that you could have had, the potential that was squandered, the chances that you never took, the successes that you never had? Or would you want to feel content knowing that you went for it all and you failed and you got up and you failed and you got up again? And you know what? Life maybe didn't turn out exactly like you envisioned, but you had a hell of a ride while doing it.
That's right.
If I were you, I would choose the second one. And that's all. Guys, this has been absolutely amazing. Have a phenomenal, phenomenal Thursday. If you enjoyed this episode, my only ask is that you share this with literally one other person who can find value from this. We'll be back tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But Bobby, before we close, is there anything that you'd like to say?
No, sir, nothing at all. This was an absolutely phenomenal, phenomenal episode.
All right, guys, let's go.